If no one's noticing your efforts, are you truly being valuable or just busy? That's the question most people avoid. They work harder, post more, talk louder, and hustle longer, but still feel invisible. They think value is about how much you do, but it's not. Real value has a different energy. It doesn't chase applause. It doesn't explain itself. It doesn't fight to be seen. It just becomes too impactful to be ignored. You don't become valuable by looking important. You become valuable by becoming irreplaceable, not through noise, but through substance. And here's the hard truth. If people keep overlooking you, it's not always their fault. Sometimes, the way you move, the way you talk, the way you handle your day, it makes you blend in. You become average without realizing it. But average is a choice. And so is value. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to become the kind of person the world can't afford to overlook. Not through manipulation, not through ego, but through actions that build real identity, real presence, and real results. You'll discover the 10 ways to make yourself too valuable to be ignored silently. No self-promotion, no hype, just power you carry and how you show up every single day. Because let's be honest, nobody teaches you how to become valuable. They teach you how to fit in, how to be agreeable, how to follow rules that don't serve you. But no one tells you how to develop the kind of presence that speaks without words. The kind that makes people trust you, even when you're not trying. The kind that opens doors, not because you ask, but because you are the door. That's what this video is about. This isn't about being better than anyone. It's about becoming better than who you were, until your presence becomes impossible to dismiss. Not because you're louder, but because you're sharper, clearer, more consistent, more intentional, more you, but leveled up. We're going to break this down into 10 specific steps. Not vague ideas, but actionable shifts that you can start today. And if you stay until the end, I'll give you a simple plan to embed these into your routine without needing willpower, external motivation, or anyone's approval. These are the shifts that don't just make you more respected, they make you more free. Because when you stop begging to be seen, you start focusing on becoming unmissable. But first, let me be clear about something. Becoming valuable isn't about being useful to others. It's about becoming non-negotiable in your own life, so that your self-worth is no longer tied to opinions, promotions, or validation. When you build that kind of value, the kind that starts from within and spills into everything you do, the world adjusts. Opportunities shift. Respect comes without asking. And success stops being accidental. So if you're tired of being overlooked, if you're tired of putting in effort that doesn't reflect in your life, if you're done pretending that things will magically change one day, then this is your video. But don't just watch. Use it. Pause when it hits. Take notes when it clicks. And apply what resonates. Because this isn't content, it's a blueprint. And if you follow it step by step, you'll notice something strange. People will start to treat you differently. Not because they changed, but because you did. And that's the entire point. So before we start, ask yourself one question. Are you willing to stop chasing validation long enough to start becoming valuable? If the answer is yes, then subscribe. Because here, we don't chase applause. We build presence. And presence doesn't need to perform. It just delivers. Let's begin. There's a difference between being visible and being valuable. Some people are constantly trying to be seen. They speak louder, post more, overexpose every small win hoping for recognition. Others, they move in silence, and their results speak loud enough for them. One of the biggest mistakes people make when trying to become successful is confusing visibility with impact. But attention fades. Value stays. Think about this. The people who build real wealth, real respect, real legacy, they don't waste energy trying to be noticed. They focus on mastering their craft, improving their systems, delivering on what matters. They let their discipline talk. Their results announce them. And that's why they're remembered, not because they shouted, but because they showed up. Now, let's be clear. There's nothing wrong with being proud of your progress. But when your focus shifts from building to broadcasting, you lose power. You start optimizing for likes instead of leverage. You begin performing instead of producing. And worst of all, you start measuring your value by how many people are watching, not by what you're actually becoming. That's the trap. The problem with chasing attention is that it puts your worth in the hands of other people. You wait for applause to feel enough. You wait for permission to believe in yourself. You become reactive, only moving when there's an audience. But valuable people don't need permission. They move in alignment. They keep promises in silence. And because they don't need to be seen, they often end up being the ones everyone watches. So how do you make this shift? Start by redefining what winning looks like to you. Make the win internal, not external. Don't wait for someone to notice. Make yourself proud. Ask yourself this: did I follow through today? Did I keep my word to myself? Did I get better, even if no one clapped? If the answer is yes, that's progress. And progress compounds. You don't need an audience for transformation. What you need is commitment. Quiet commitment. Here's a practical strategy. Every morning, instead of checking your phone or planning how to show your progress, plan how to create progress. Ask yourself, what result matters today? What promise do I refuse to break with myself? What one thing will I complete, no matter what? Then, deliver it. Without posting, without proving, just deliver it. Because the more you practice producing without validation, the stronger your self-worth becomes. And when your self-worth comes from consistency, no one can take it away. Now here's the twist. The world does notice. Eventually. But not when you're desperate. Not when you're trying to impress. They notice when you've been so consistent for so long that your results become undeniable. That's what you're building. A reputation based on reality, not noise. And that starts with one quiet win, followed by another. Here's a story you've seen 100 times, but probably never paid attention to. Two people start the same path. One shares every step, their new idea, their goals, their plans, their projections. The other stays quiet. They study, they apply, they adjust, they execute. 5 months later, the loud one has built a brand. The quiet one has built a result. Guess who gets the job? Guess who gets the respect? Guess who's remembered when it matters? The person who delivered, not the one who distracted. This doesn't mean you should disappear. It means your focus should be on becoming solid, so that when you do speak, it carries weight. So that when you're finally seen, you're undeniable. Now, take a moment. Think about where in your life you've been chasing attention instead of chasing growth. Where are you seeking validation instead of stacking results? That's your starting point. Don't shame yourself. Just shift. You don't need to stop sharing. You just need to start building more than you broadcast. Be the person who's working when no one's watching. Be the one who's consistent without applause. Be the one who produces so much value that people have no choice but to notice, eventually. But by then, you won't need it. You'll already know who you are. And that's the kind of value no one can ignore. If that's the version of you you're committed to becoming, then this is your reminder to subscribe now. Not because this video impressed you, but because you're ready to stop performing and start producing every single day. If you want to be too valuable to ignore, there's one mindset shift you can't avoid. Ownership. Complete, radical, unapologetic ownership. Not just when it's easy. Not just when you're praised, but especially when no one's watching, and when the result isn't what you wanted. This is where most people fail. They want the rewards of success without carrying the full weight of their actions. They blame timing. They blame their boss. They blame the algorithm, the economy, the weather, or their childhood. They blame everything, except the one thing they actually control, themselves. Here's the truth you won't hear often. You don't rise by doing more. You rise by owning more. When you walk into a room with the mindset of, "This is mine," not in arrogance, but in responsibility, something shifts. People sense it. You become the one they can rely on. The one who doesn't flinch when things go wrong. The one who doesn't need supervision, validation, or hand-holding. You become the reference. And it starts with the small stuff. Because if you ignore the details when they seem unimportant, you'll never be trusted with what truly matters. Think about it. Do you close loops or leave things half done? Do you follow through on your word, even when it's inconvenient? Do you clean up messes you didn't make just because you care about the standard? That's what ownership looks like. It's not about perfection. It's about personal leadership. People who own everything they do don't wait for someone to assign them value. They create it. They don't clock in and out of integrity. They bring it into every space they walk into, whether it's cleaning the kitchen or leading a team. That consistency builds trust, and trust is value. Now, this doesn't mean taking the blame for everything. It means taking control of how you show up in every situation. Here's how to start embedding ownership into your identity. First, remove the phrase, "That's not my job," from your vocabulary. Valuable people don't need job descriptions to step up. They're not obsessed with credit or recognition. They're obsessed with results. Second, pay close attention to how you speak when things go wrong. Do you explain? Do you deflect? Do you minimize? Or do you say, "This happened. I'm responsible for this part. Here's what I'm doing to correct it"? That's ownership. And that's power. It doesn't make you weaker. It makes you trustworthy. Because people know, when you're involved, things get handled. Now, let's talk about something most people overlook: standards. When you hold a high standard for yourself, people feel it. Not because you say it, but because you live it. You don't need to preach discipline. You show it in your habits, your punctuality, your preparation, your clarity. Even in silence, people see it. And over time, you become someone they default to. Because while others are still making excuses, you're making progress. Let's get practical. Here's a question to ask yourself every day. What did I touch today that now carries my fingerprint of excellence? Was it an email? A workout? A conversation? A plan? If you can't point to something, then you're not owning enough. And if you want to be too valuable to ignore, you need to raise the bar, not occasionally, but habitually. You don't need to fix everything. You just need to make sure that whatever you touch gets better, cleaner, clearer, more aligned. And yes, that includes how you talk to yourself. Ownership starts in the mind. Are you taking responsibility for the thoughts you feed? Or are you letting self-doubt run wild and then blaming life for the result? Because here's the hidden layer of ownership that nobody teaches. You must own your internal environment before you can lead anything external. When your inner world is disciplined, your outer world starts to follow. Your focus improves. Your standards sharpen. Your value multiplies quietly, but powerfully. And the best part? This kind of ownership doesn't need to be announced. It just becomes evident. Your boss starts relying on you. Your clients trust your judgment. Your team respects your word. Your life responds with more clarity, more order, more impact. And you start walking differently. Not arrogantly, but grounded. Because you know, you're not waiting for someone to choose you. You already chose yourself. So, if you've been wondering why people don't treat you like a leader, maybe it's because you haven't fully stepped into that role yet. But the moment you do, the moment you start owning everything, even the parts no one sees, the world starts responding. Not instantly, not dramatically, but undeniably. Now, let's ground this with a small but powerful challenge. Today, pick one area of your life you've been avoiding full ownership in. Maybe it's your finances, your health, your communication, your time. Don't try to fix everything. Just take radical responsibility for one thing. Make a decision. Create a plan. Follow through with excellence. Because when you train yourself to own the small stuff, you become the kind of person trusted with the big stuff. That's how value is built. That's how presence is earned. Not with noise, not with announcements, but with a standard so clear, It speaks for itself. And now I want to hear from you. Which of these mindsets are you already applying? And which one are you ready to take to the next level? Let me know in the comments. Because ownership shared is accountability multiplied. And we're building something real together. If you want to become too valuable to be ignored, hype won't get you there. Systems will. Hype is loud. It gets attention, but rarely results. It burns fast and fades faster. Systems? They build quietly, predictably, consistently. They don't depend on your mood. They don't need applause. They just work because you work them. Here's what most people don't understand. You're not rewarded for how hard you try. You're rewarded for what you consistently produce. And consistency doesn't come from motivation. It comes from structure. That's why valuable people rely on systems, not emotion. They don't hope their discipline will show up tomorrow. They make it automatic. They don't wait to feel ready. They've built a process that starts without asking for permission. This is one of the key distinctions between someone who's always trying to get ahead and someone who's already moving forward silently and powerfully. Now, let's be clear. A system doesn't have to be complex. You don't need spreadsheets, apps, or color-coded routines. A system is anything that removes decision fatigue and builds momentum by default. It's waking up and knowing exactly what your first hour looks like. It's having a set way to plan your week. It's having a reset routine when your energy drops or your environment gets messy. Systems reduce friction. They remove excuses. They protect you from the chaos of everyday life because they give you something stable to hold on to. Think about someone you admire, someone who shows up powerfully and delivers results. You'll notice something. They're predictable, not boring. Predictable. They don't panic under pressure. They don't constantly reinvent themselves. They find what works and repeat it with excellence. That's not rigidity. That's mastery. Now ask yourself this. Where in your life are you relying on hope instead of habit? Where are you trying to feel like it instead of just having a system that makes it inevitable? Because your value doesn't come from your potential. It comes from your reliability. And reliable people build systems. Let's get practical. Here are 3 areas where you should start systematizing today. Your focus. If you wake up and immediately dive into noise, messages, updates, distractions, your day is already hijacked. Build a system for reclaiming your focus. Maybe it's 30 minutes of silence every morning before checking your phone. Maybe it's planning your top 3 outcomes for the day the night before. Maybe it's blocking off deep work hours and protecting them like meetings. Whatever it is, make it repeatable. Your energy. You can't produce consistently if your energy is unpredictable. And no, caffeine isn't a strategy. Build a system that protects your physical and mental energy. Maybe it's a non-negotiable sleep window, a morning walk, a midday reset routine, a weekly off block to recharge. Treat your energy like an asset, because it is. Your commitments. Stop trying to remember everything. Start building systems that track your promises to yourself and others. Use a calendar that actually reflects your real priorities. Use a task manager that clears your head and reminds you what matters. When you capture, review, and execute consistently, people notice. You become the person who doesn't forget, the one who follows through, the one who keeps the machine moving, no matter what. And that's rare. That's valuable. Now here's the mindset shift. Your goal is not to hustle harder. Your goal is to systematize success. That means identifying what already works and multiplying it. That means stopping the habit of resetting every week. That means building rhythms that support your best work, not fight it. Most people are constantly starting over. They get motivated, build momentum, crash, get discouraged, and restart. It's exhausting and unnecessary. The valuable person doesn't play that game. They build stability. So even when life gets chaotic, they don't fall apart. They adjust. Because their foundation is solid. Think of it like this. Hype is energy dependent. Systems are energy efficient. Hype wears you out. Systems free you up. Now, A quick warning. At first, systems feel restrictive. You'll resist the structure. You'll want variety, flexibility, spontaneity. But here's the paradox. The more structured your systems, the more freedom you earn. Because you stop wasting time deciding. You stop getting stuck in guilt. You stop relying on feelings. And you just move with clarity, speed, and strength. So if you've been feeling inconsistent, overwhelmed, or like you're constantly starting from zero, you don't need more motivation. You need better systems. Start with one. Pick a daily action you know moves you forward and make it non-negotiable. Not forever, just for the next 7 days. Track it, protect it, repeat it, then add another and another. Before you know it, you won't be forcing discipline. You'll be operating from it. And that's when things shift. Because people don't trust hype. They trust results. And results come from systems, repeated with precision. If that's what you're building, keep watching. Because step 4 is where we turn your system into identity. Let's go? Discipline isn't something you do. It's who you become. Most people treat discipline like an emergency tool. They use it when they're in crisis. When the deadline is tomorrow. When they feel guilty for procrastinating. When they've hit rock bottom again. But valuable people don't wait for chaos to act with discipline. They build discipline into their identity. That's the difference. When discipline is a reaction, you're unreliable. When discipline is who you are, you're unshakable. And here's what no one tells you. You don't need more motivation. You need to stop negotiating with your lower self. That version of you that says, just 5 more minutes. You've worked hard enough. You'll do better tomorrow. No, you won't. Not unless you decide now to live by a different standard. Because discipline doesn't start in your calendar. It starts in your identity. So ask yourself, who are you when no one's watching? Do you keep promises to yourself when no one will know if you break them? Do you follow through even when the feeling is gone? That's where real value is built. Because people might admire your skills, but they trust your patterns. And patterns don't lie. Now here's the shift most never make. Stop seeing discipline as a tool. Start seeing it as a mirror. It shows you who you are every single day. And if you don't like what you see, you don't need to fix your habits first. You need to fix the image you have of yourself. Because no habit lasts if it contradicts your identity. If deep down you still believe you're undisciplined, inconsistent, or weak, your brain will sabotage every good intention you try to act on. That's why the change has to happen at the level of who you believe you are. Let me give you an example. Let's say someone's trying to wake up early. If their identity is still, I'm not a morning person, they'll fail no matter how many alarms they set. But if they start telling themselves, I'm the kind of person who protects my mornings because I protect my future, everything shifts. Suddenly, the alarm isn't a punishment, it's a signal. A reminder of who they are now. That's the work. Discipline begins in language. In the way you speak to yourself. In the story you repeat every morning. If that story is weak, your actions will be too. So what's the new story? It's simple. I do what needs to be done, especially when I don't feel like it. Repeat it. Live it. Own it. Now let's make this practical. Here's how to start making discipline your identity today. 1. Identify your non-negotiables. Pick 2 or 3 small, repeatable actions that align with the kind of person you want to become. Not massive goals. Just real, consistent proof of identity. It could be no phone for the first 30 minutes after waking up. Daily reading for 10 minutes. A 15-minute focused work block before anything reactive. Choose them. Commit to them. No negotiations. 2. Track your follow-through, not your feelings. Don't measure success by how inspired you felt. Measure it by whether you did what you said you would do. Keep a visible tracker. A checklist. A scorecard. Whatever reminds you, I am who I say I am. 3. When you fall off, recover fast. You will fail. You will miss days. That's not weakness. That's reality. What matters is how long you stay down. Disciplined people don't pretend to be perfect. They just bounce back faster. So instead of spiraling into guilt, say, "That wasn't me. That was the old version." The new version gets back up immediately. And move. 4. Anchor your actions to your future. Discipline without vision becomes drudgery. So constantly remind yourself, why does this matter? Don't just say, "I want to be consistent." Say, "I want to be the kind of person who earns trust, builds freedom, and lives with clarity." Every action becomes sacred when you connect it to something deeper. And now here's the most important piece. Celebrate privately. Don't wait for people to notice. Don't post every time you keep a promise. Don't look for applause. Instead, close your eyes for 1 minute at the end of the day and say, "I kept my word. I moved with intention. I'm becoming the person I promised myself I would be." That's real power. That's internal momentum. And that's what makes you valuable. Because in a world full of distractions, inconsistency, and excuses, you become the one who's grounded, reliable, predictable in the best way possible. And people feel it. They don't need you to explain your discipline. They can see it in how you carry yourself, how you show up on time, how your words match your actions, how your results speak louder than your voice ever could. So if you're tired of being someone who tries to be disciplined, it's time to stop trying and start being. Choose the identity, build the rituals, protect the standard, and don't announce anything. Just become undeniable quietly. Let's keep building. Step 5 is where we solidify that presence into calm, no matter what chaos is around you. When everything around you is spinning, you have two choices. Match the chaos or anchor the moment. Most people react. They get louder, more frantic, more emotional. They absorb the tension of their environment and mirror it back. Valuable people don't. They do something rare. They become the calm, not by pretending everything is fine, not by avoiding hard truths, but by standing still on the inside, even when everything outside is shaking. And that calm presence? It's magnetic. It earns trust fast. It opens doors. It brings people in. Because in a world full of noise, clarity is irresistible. Let's be clear. Being calm doesn't mean being passive. It means being composed. It means you've trained your nervous system not to overreact. It means your decisions are not made from panic, but from principle. It means that when others lose focus, you keep yours. And this isn't about personality. It's about preparation. Calm is not a trait. It's a skill, a system, a decision repeated daily until it becomes your nature. So let's talk about how to build it. First, understand the real reason most people live in constant chaos. They don't lead their day, they respond to it. They wake up in reaction mode. Phone, messages, notifications. They give their focus away before they've even spoken to themselves. Then they wonder why they feel scattered, anxious, and overwhelmed. If that's you, no shame. But you need to shift. Start each day by reclaiming your space internally. Before the world speaks to you, speak to yourself. Before you move outward, go inward. Here's a simple but powerful shift. Create a daily calm system. It doesn't need to be long. It needs to be intentional. For example, 10 minutes of stillness or breathing right after waking. A single journal prompt. What energy do I choose to carry today? A moment of visualization, not of goals, but of how you want to be focused, present, unshakable. This anchors your nervous system. And when your system is anchored, pressure doesn't pull you out of character. That's where value begins to rise. Now, let's move into practice. Here's a mindset that changes everything. I don't react, I respond. Reaction is fast, emotional, unfiltered. Response is grounded, thoughtful, intentional. When you live by response, you gain something powerful. Space. That space between trigger and action. That pause between emotion and behavior. That's where your leadership lives. Start noticing your triggers. When something upsets you, delays you, challenges you, don't jump. Pause. Breathe. Ask, What would the strongest version of me do right now? That question alone can change everything. Because the strongest version of you isn't louder. It's quieter. It doesn't rush to be heard. It chooses words with purpose. It doesn't panic. It prepares. Here's another shift. Stop being surprised by chaos. It's coming. It always does. People will flake. Plans will shift. Technology will fail. Your schedule will break. Calm people expect it and prepare for it. They don't rely on a perfect day to execute a powerful plan. They build margin. They protect their energy. They move from principles, not emotions. So ask yourself, what throws you off most often? Traffic? Criticism? Delay? Disrespect? Whatever it is, build a response system for it. Maybe it's a phrase you say to yourself. Maybe it's a ritual you do to reset. Maybe it's a boundary you put in place. Whatever it is, systematize your stability. Because when chaos strikes, you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to your preparation. Now, let's talk about leadership. Because this trait, calm under pressure, is what separates managers from leaders, colleagues from captains, useful from indispensable. When others are scattered and you remain grounded, people start looking to you, not just for tasks, but for presence, for direction, for certainty. You become a thermostat, not a thermometer. You don't just reflect the room. You set the tone. That's how value is built. Quietly, consistently, through how you carry moments that others collapse under. So here's your challenge. Pick one chaos-triggering situation you face regularly. Write down your current default reaction. Then design a new one. Something like, default, I get irritated and shut down when plans change. New response, I pause, breathe, and ask, what can I control right now? Practice it. Don't wait for the perfect scenario. Start today, even with small disruptions. Each time you override your instinct to react, you rewire your brain. You train it to respond with presence. Over time, this becomes who you are. Not someone who avoids problems, but someone who brings clarity inside them. And that clarity? It's what makes you valuable. Because calm creates space, and space allows others to think, breathe, and trust. You become the one people turn to, not because you have all the answers, but because you're the only one not panicking about the question. That's rare. That's leadership. That's presence. So if you're ready to become the calm in the chaos, don't just absorb this message. Apply it. Create your calm system. Choose your responses. Build your identity around stability, not noise. And then, let the world do what it does. You'll still be standing. Let's keep going. In step 6, you'll learn how to simplify what others complicate, and why that's one of the most underrated forms of value there is. The most valuable people in any room have one underrated superpower. They make things simple, not basic, not shallow, simple. They take messy problems and bring clarity. They reduce complexity without losing depth. They speak in a way that makes people nod, not because it's easy, but because it's finally understandable. That's rare, and rare is valuable. Most people complicate. They add layers, jargon, drama, excuses. They confuse action with analysis. They hide behind complexity because it makes them feel important. But valuable people do the opposite. They cut through noise. They get to the point. They make decisions faster. They communicate clearer. They execute better, not because they know everything, but because they know what matters. And that's the shift. Clarity is more powerful than knowledge, because clarity leads to action, and action creates change. So let's make this personal. Where in your life are you overcomplicating things? Your routine? Your goals? Your relationships? Your priorities? Here's a clue. If you feel overwhelmed, it's not always because you have too much to do. It's often because you haven't made a clear decision about what really matters. Valuable people simplify by default. They're not smarter. They're just more intentional. Let's break down how to build this trait into your daily mindset. Step 1. Define what matters clearly. Most people can't articulate their priorities in one sentence. They have a list of 17 things. No wonder they feel scattered. Valuable people don't chase everything. They clarify their core and protect it. Ask yourself, what are the 3 outcomes that actually move my life forward this week? What is one thing I must complete today that will make everything else easier or irrelevant? If I could only win at one thing this month, what would it be? Write the answers. Revisit them daily. Let them shape your focus. That's the first layer of simplification, clarity of aim. Step 2. Cut the excess brutally. Simplification requires subtraction. Most people keep adding. More apps, more plans, more advice, more opinions, more to-do lists. And yet, they don't move. Because motion isn't the same as momentum. Start eliminating. Say no to what dilutes your energy. Unsubscribe from what doesn't serve your growth. Shorten your meetings. Delete tools you don't use. Let go of goals that aren't truly yours. Every subtraction makes you more powerful. Every layer you remove brings you closer to clarity. Step 3. Communicate with precision. Want to instantly increase your value in any environment? Be the person who speaks clearly. Don't ramble. Don't over-explain. Don't flood people with options when what they need is a decision. Practice saying, "Here's what I recommend. This is the priority. Let's simplify this process. We don't need to do that now. This is what success looks like." When you become the person who reduces confusion, you become essential. Because clarity saves time. Time saves energy. Energy gets results. Step 4. Build systems that work without friction. We touched on systems earlier. Now let's take it deeper. Simplifying your life isn't just about what you remove. It's about what you make seamless. A valuable person doesn't need reminders for everything. They've built systems that handle the basics, so their mind is free to focus on what actually matters. Example: morning routine equals same sequence every day. Weekly planning equals 15-minute session every Sunday. Content creation, client management, workouts, all with a rhythm. When things are too complex, they break. Simple is sustainable, and sustainable wins. Now let's talk about how this affects your presence. When you walk into a room and speak clearly. When you solve problems without creating new ones. When you cut through noise instead of adding to it. You create psychological safety. People relax around you. They listen. They trust. They follow. Because complexity creates anxiety. Clarity creates leadership. And leadership is the fastest path to value. So here's a question for reflection. Where am I making things harder than they need to be? Look at your habits, projects, conversations, decisions, self-talk. Then ask, what's the simplest next step? Not the most perfect, not the most impressive, just the simplest and most honest. Do that and repeat. Because simplification is not a one-time event. It's a mindset, a muscle. Every time you practice it, you reinforce the message. I am focused. I am clear. I am efficient. That message spreads. People feel it. And they start relying on you for what matters, not for noise, but for direction. Now a warning. Simplifying is not always popular. Some people love complexity because it protects their ego. They'll resist your clarity. They'll try to pull you into confusion again. Don't follow. Stay focused. Stay simple. Stay sharp. Because your job isn't to impress people with how much you know. It's to move things forward with elegance, clarity, and precision. That's what makes you valuable. That's what makes you irreplaceable. So here's a small but powerful challenge. Pick one area of your life that feels heavy. Ask, what would this look like if it were easy? Then, take action to make it easy. Simplify your space, your schedule, your strategy, your speech. And when you do, you'll notice something incredible. You'll feel lighter, clearer, more effective, and so will everyone around you. Let's keep building. In step 7, we'll shift gears and explore how to invest in depth over distraction the key to becoming powerful beneath the surface. We live in a world obsessed with the next thing, the next idea, the next book, the next strategy, the next opportunity, the next shortcut. And because of that, most people never go deep. They skim, they dabble, they collect information, but they don't transform. They know a little bit of everything and master nothing. But the people who become truly valuable, the ones you can't ignore, they make a different choice. They invest in depth, not in hype, not in distraction, but in depth. They don't jump from trend to trend. They dig, they study, they apply, they refine. They become dangerously good at what they do, not because they move fast, but because they move with focus. Here's the truth. Depth beats speed. Every time. Anyone can be impressive for a moment, but depth makes you irreplaceable over time. Because depth is what gives your words weight, your presence authority, your work results. People feel it, even if they don't know how to explain it. They just trust you more. Because you're not guessing. You're grounded. So how do you build this? You start by shifting your relationship with knowledge. Stop collecting. Start applying. Stop reading just to feel productive. Start studying to integrate. When you consume content, ask, where will I use this? How does this apply to what I'm building? What one insight can I implement this week? This is how valuable people grow. Not through consumption, through integration. It's not about reading 50 books. It's about extracting one insight and using it until it reshapes you. That's depth. Now let's talk about distractions. Because even people with good intentions get derailed by this. They follow too many creators, sign up for too many courses, watch 30 videos and take action on none. It feels like progress. It looks like momentum, but it's just noise. Let me be clear. Distraction is the enemy of depth. And in today's world, distraction often comes disguised as productivity. That new productivity app? That fourth podcast this week? That YouTube rabbit hole of millionaire morning routines? It's not helping you if you're not applying it. So here's your new standard. If it's not helping you go deeper, it's pulling you away. Start protecting your attention like it's currency. Because it is. Now let's make this practical. Here are 3 shifts you can implement this week to start investing in depth. 1. Choose one focus area for the next 30 days. Instead of trying to master 5 things at once, pick one area to go deep in. It could be your communication skills, your financial strategy, your physical health, your leadership presence, your morning routine. Whatever it is, choose it with intention. Then obsess over it in a healthy way. Study it, apply it, refine it, track real progress, build real skill, get real feedback, and watch your confidence explode quietly, powerfully. 2. Build a deep work habit. Set aside 60 to 90 minutes, at least 3 times a week, for undistracted, high-focus work. No phone, no multitasking, no reactive tasks. This is time for strategy, creation, reflection, or skill building. You don't rise by staying busy. You rise by going deep when it matters most. 3. Reduce input. Increase output. Pick 1 to 2 high-quality mentors or sources of insight. Block out the rest for now. Use their principles as a framework. Apply them to your life. Reflect on what works and what doesn't. Then share your experience. Teach someone. Write it down. Record your learnings. Because when you create from what you learn, you embed the depth. Now here's something no one tells you. Depth is slow until it's fast. At first, it feels like you're behind, like others are moving quicker, getting more attention, winning faster. Ignore that, because depth has a compounding effect. What feels invisible today becomes undeniable tomorrow. And once it clicks, it scales. You'll speak with more certainty. You'll execute with more precision. You'll make decisions faster, not because you rush, but because you know. That's what makes you valuable. That's what gives you presence. And people will notice. They'll start asking how you move so clearly, how you built so much without being loud, how you earned respect without trying so hard. The answer will be simple. I chose depth over distraction. That's your edge. So let's solidify it with a quick challenge. For the next 7 days, track your inputs and outputs. Every time you consume something, a video, article, podcast, write it down. Then ask, did this help me go deeper? What will I do with this insight? What did I create or improve because of it? If the answer is nothing, cut that input next week. Your time is too valuable to waste on passive knowledge. Become the person who builds, not just learns. Who applies, not just watches. Who goes deep, while others stay surface level. That's how you rise. Silently, steadily, powerfully. In Step 8, we'll explore how to multiply what works without shouting about it. Once you find what works, most people do something strange. They abandon it. They get bored. They chase the next strategy. They assume that growth only happens through novelty. So they start over, again and again. And that's why they never build anything lasting. But valuable people think differently. They don't reinvent what's working. They multiply it. Silently, consistently, without fanfare. They understand a principle most ignore. Success doesn't come from what you start. It comes from what you sustain. When you discover a rhythm that produces results, don't touch it. Double it. Refine it. Scale it. Protect it. Because the moment you chase what's shiny, you lose what's solid. Let's make this concrete. Imagine you build a morning routine that gives you clarity and energy. It's not perfect, but it works. Now you have a choice. Stick with it and let it compound. Or abandon it for the next trend because you want something new. Valuable people stick. They know that boring consistency outperforms inconsistent brilliance every time. Why? Because when you multiply what works, you create momentum. And momentum is how results stack faster than effort. It's how you become unstoppable, not loudly, but relentlessly. Let's apply this idea to different areas of life. 1. In your habits. If a habit is working, keep doing it. Don't question it. Don't tweak it until it breaks. If it's giving you clarity, progress, peace, let it run. That's a system now. Don't sabotage it with boredom. 2. In your work. If a process leads to results, document it. Streamline it. Train others to follow it. Automate what you can. But don't try to impress anyone by starting from scratch. Professionals build foundations. Amateurs chase freshness. 3. In your relationships. If a conversation habit, a boundary, or a rhythm improves connection, repeat it. The people who build the strongest bonds aren't constantly changing their style. They're consistent in what works. 4. In your personal growth. If a routine helps you think clearer, feel stronger, act better, protect it. You don't need a dozen new books. You need to go deeper into the one idea that already moved you and live it fully. Now, let's talk about the power of doing this silently. Most people announce every win. They tell the world what they're working on. They crave recognition before the foundation is even set. Valuable people don't do that. They let the results speak. They multiply in silence and let consistency do the talking. Why? Because silence protects momentum. It keeps you focused on the process, not the performance. It eliminates pressure to impress. It builds character without ego. Here's the mindset. I don't need to prove. I just need to produce. You don't have to share your goals. You don't have to post your process. You don't have to market your every move. You just have to do the work again and again and again. Because when you multiply what works, the results eventually speak so loudly, no one can ignore you. Now here's a warning. This path is not glamorous. It's repetitive, sometimes boring, rarely praised. But that's exactly why it works. Most people can't handle repetition. They chase excitement and lose results. You choose the opposite. You choose quiet mastery over public distraction. Let's make this actionable. Here's how to multiply what works today. Step 1. Identify what's already working. Look across your life, your routines, your business, your habits, your energy. Ask, what is giving me clear, repeatable results? What feels natural and powerful? What am I doing now that's actually improving my life? Write down 3 things. Step 2, double down. Now ask, how can I do more of this with less resistance? What distractions are pulling me away from this rhythm? What would happen if I committed to this fully for the next 30 days? Set a rule, no tweaking, no abandoning, no chasing. Just repeat what works and refine as you go. Step 3, protect your system. Block distractions that make you question it. Mute the noise. Say no to better ideas that aren't better for you. Sometimes, the best way to move forward is to go deeper, not wider. And remember, you're not here to impress people with variety. You're here to build something solid. One more mindset to lock in. The goal isn't to do more. It's to do what works, more often, more efficiently, and more consistently. That's how power compounds. And eventually, people will ask, how did you build all this? How did you grow so fast? How did you become so consistent? And you'll smile, because they didn't see it. But you did the same things, day after day, with precision. That's your edge. So here's your challenge. For the next 7 days, pick one thing that's working and go all in. Don't overthink. Don't complicate. Don't change lanes. Just multiply it. Silently, steadily, relentlessly. In step 9, we'll explore the invisible influence you have when you live like this, and how your consistency starts to transform others, even without trying. There's a kind of influence that doesn't come from titles, speeches, or charisma. It comes from consistency, from being the kind of person whose presence alone raises the standard without saying a word. You've seen it. Someone walks into a room and doesn't have to announce themselves. Their focus, their calm, their way of moving, it shifts the atmosphere. They're not the loudest, but they are the most grounded. And somehow, without effort, they make people better. That's not an accident. That's what real value looks like. Because when you live with discipline, clarity, and integrity, you become a mirror. You reflect back to others what's possible. And that reflection challenges them. It inspires them. Sometimes it even makes them uncomfortable because your consistency reveals their excuses. But it also invites them to level up. Not because you tell them to, but because you are the proof of what they could become. That's leadership. And it has nothing to do with position. It's built, over time, through one simple but powerful force: consistency. Let's break this down. When people watch you show up every day, especially when it's hard, they begin to trust you, not just with tasks, but with energy, with momentum, with belief. Because in a world full of unpredictability, consistency is a superpower. Think about the people you admire most. Are they perfect? Probably not. But are they steady? Absolutely. They don't panic when things go wrong. They don't collapse under pressure. They don't flip personalities depending on the day. They're rooted, stable, aligned. And that stability gives others permission to stop performing and start becoming. Let's make this practical. Here are 3 ways your consistency transforms people, even if you never say a word. 1. You normalize excellence. When you show up early, stay focused, and follow through, it quietly makes everyone around you question their own standard. Not because you lecture them, but because your actions speak with authority. Your presence says, "We don't cut corners here." And people adjust. They show up sharper. They take things more seriously. They raise their own bar just to keep up. That's real influence. 2. You create emotional safety. Inconsistency breeds anxiety. People don't know what to expect. They walk on eggshells. But when you're consistent emotionally, mentally, energetically, you become a stable force in people's lives. They know what version of you is showing up. They can rely on your tone, your judgment, your clarity. That doesn't just build trust, it builds loyalty. Because people don't remember everything you say, but they remember how you made them feel. And consistent people make others feel safe. 3. You model what's possible. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be real and committed. When others see you holding the line, staying true to your values, doing the work when no one's watching, they start believing they can too. You become the standard, not in a flashy way, in a quietly magnetic way. People watch you, and without realizing it, they start changing. They organize their space better. They show up earlier. They take their word more seriously. They think twice before complaining, all because you've made consistency look normal. And that's what valuable people do. They lead silently through pattern, not pressure. Now, let's flip this around. Because the impact isn't just external. When you live consistently, you change too. You start believing your own power. You no longer need external validation to feel aligned. You stop asking, "Am I doing enough?" Because your actions prove it to you daily. And that inner alignment? It frees you. You stop living for performance. You stop chasing momentum. You become momentum. Let me give you a simple truth. The people who make the deepest impact are rarely the most visible. They're the most reliable. That's what makes you different. Now let's address something important. Consistency is often misunderstood as perfection. It's not. You'll miss days. You'll make mistakes. You'll fall short. What matters is what happens next. Do you hide? Or do you return quickly, humbly, powerfully? That return is what builds reputation. That return is what people remember. Because when you rise after a fall and don't make a big deal out of it, you model something everyone needs to see. That strength isn't about never slipping. It's about never staying down. So here's your reflection. What kind of energy do people absorb from you without you even realizing it? Are you unpredictable? Or are you consistent? Do you leave people feeling scattered or safe, inspired or indifferent? This isn't about guilt. It's about awareness. And awareness is the beginning of power. So here's your challenge. This week, choose one room where you want to be a consistent force. Maybe it's your team, your family, your online audience, your training group. Then decide, what energy do I want to carry in that room? What standard do I want to normalize? What would it look like to be the steady one, regardless of how others behave? Then, be that person, without asking for credit, without waiting for feedback. Just lead, quietly, relentlessly, because your presence is always speaking, even when you're silent. And when that presence is built on consistency, people don't just notice you. They change around you. That's real value. That's leadership that lasts. Let's move on to the final step, step 10, where everything converges into one identity. The person no one can replace. You don't become irreplaceable by doing everything. You become irreplaceable by becoming someone no one else can be. That doesn't mean being perfect. It means being so aligned, so consistent, so rooted in value, that removing you would create a vacuum. That's not ego. That's identity. And here's the truth. In every environment, work, family, team, community, people come and go. But every once in a while, someone stands out. They don't shout. They don't dominate. They don't constantly sell themselves. They simply deliver. With integrity, with discipline, with clarity, with intention. And everyone knows, even if they never say it out loud. We need that person. That person is not just productive. They're trusted. They're respected. They're the backbone. So how do you become that person? Let's bring everything together. You stop chasing attention and you start producing real results. You own everything you touch, especially the small stuff. You build systems so your value doesn't depend on your mood. You make discipline your identity, not a tool. You become the calm in chaos, a steady presence when others shake. You simplify what others complicate and bring clarity to confusion. You invest in depth while others drown in distraction. You multiply what works quietly and relentlessly. You make people better just by being consistent. And now, you close the loop. You decide that this version of you is not a goal, It's your new baseline. You don't visit this level. You live here. Because here's what you need to know. When your character matches your competence, you become unstoppable. People can find someone with skills. They can find someone charismatic. But someone who delivers consistently, lives with principle, communicates with clarity, and leads with humility? That's rare. And rare is irreplaceable. But let's go deeper. Becoming this kind of person isn't just about what you give to others. It's about what you reclaim for yourself. When you live like this, you stop negotiating with your lower self. You stop begging for validation. You stop waiting for permission. You stop diluting your energy across meaningless distractions. You take full ownership. You move with clarity. You live with purpose. And suddenly, success stops being accidental. Respect stops being situational. And your identity stops being a performance. You're just solid. You don't need applause. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need to chase momentum. You are momentum. Now, let's build a plan. Because knowing this isn't enough. You need to apply it. Daily. Intentionally. Quietly. So here's your irreplaceable identity plan. A practical 7-day starter. Day 1. Audit your value leaks. Write down everything that's draining your focus, energy, or clarity. Unnecessary apps. Distractions in your space. People-pleasing. Overcommitting. Loose standards. Then, choose one to eliminate or upgrade today. Day 2. Establish your morning standard. No more waking up in reaction. Create a system that centers you. Silence. Clarity question. Top 3 intentions. No phone until you decide who you are that day. Day 3. Define your one thing. Ask, what is the one action I must complete daily, no matter what, that anchors my value? Do it. Track it. Protect it. Day 4. Identify what's working and multiply it. What habit, system, or rhythm is producing real results for you? Double down. Repeat it with precision. Don't tweak, reinforce. Day 5. Serve silently. Pick one area where you usually expect recognition. Today, serve with zero expectation of praise. Deliver with excellence and walk away. Feel the power of internal reward. Day 6. Anchor calm in chaos. When something unexpected disrupts your day, pause. Breathe. Ask, what would the best version of me do right now? Then do it with grace and control. Day 7. Reflect and recommit. Look back on the week. What shifted? What surprised you? What version of yourself showed up? Now ask, do I want to keep becoming this person or just visit them occasionally? Because being valuable isn't about occasional brilliance. It's about daily alignment. That's how you become the person no one can replace. You don't try to be everything. You become someone so rooted in who you are that no one else can substitute it. And here's the beautiful twist. When you live like this, you no longer need to be recognized. Because everything you're building, it's shaping your future, your reputation, your impact. Silently, steadily, permanently. So if you've reached this point in the video, here's what it means. You're done being overlooked. You're done living under potential. You're done blending in. You're ready to build value that speaks for itself. Not with noise, but with presence. And if that's you, then subscribe now. Not to follow another video, but to remind yourself daily that you're becoming a person who doesn't need to be chosen. Because you already chose yourself. And when you do that, everything changes. See you in the next video where we take this even deeper.